everybody. Welcome to episode 14 of Run to the Hills. How are you doing? How is lockdown treating you? How are you feeling? John, you're still alive. You are looking smiley and chirpy as always. How are you going? How is that speed coming along?
Well, week one of doing my sort of challenge to try and improve my speed. And I decided to do your sessions. So I've looked through your 5 sessions and I'm going to pick one a week and have a go. So this week it was beat the clock back. So that was a 15-minute warm-up, which I actually thought really helped me, actually. So I ran down to the cycle track and then I run. So I've got no cars in the way once I get down there. And then I did 15 minutes out, turn round and 15 minutes back, and then 15-minute cool down. So it was just on the hour. So it was perfect. And I really enjoyed it. On the way out, I averaged 7:46 pace. And on the way back, I averaged 7:42 pace. So I was 10 seconds faster on the way back.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Perfect. And did you feel different on the way out to the way back as you were doing it?
Yeah, partly. It was. It's always a little bit windy down there. So the wind was against me on the way out. And then when I turned, I thought, oh, great, the wind's going to be behind me. But it seemed to be in front of me again. So it seemed to be windy both ways, to be honest, which I wasn't quite sure. And it was a little bit wet. But no, I was quite pleased that I was able to maintain that pace for half an hour. And that was significantly faster than when I did my 6.5 mile trial run, as it were, last week. So it was encouraging. And we had a session on Monday as well at the club, which was a good one. We did a 10-minute tempo run and then 10 by 1 minute and then a 10-minute run again. But I ran it with Katrina and a few of their friends, so I didn't push quite so hard on the first one, and then I was quite a bit quicker on the second one, which is good.
That's good. That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people that gets fitter quite quick? So if you do a couple of sessions, do you find it comes back to you quite quickly?
I think so. Yeah. But it's just, I think I said last week, I just feel as though over the last 18 months, ever since the Dragon's back, I've just been getting slower and slower. So I just wanted to give myself a little bit of a kickstart and see if I can just improve that speed a bit. So week one, I would say I'm quite encouraged. And tomorrow, our club, Kilbarchan, we've got a time trial, a 5K time trial, which has all been sorted out with Scottish Athletics, and it's all approved. So there's about 30 of us running tomorrow, and we're going off in 3 waves every 2 minutes. So it'll be on the park run course at Linwood, which obviously we've not done since March or way before. I think if I can get under 23 minutes tomorrow,
yeah,
I'll be quite happy.
I was going to say that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. And how is your Sutton Challenge going?
Well, you can see the charts filling up behind me as in my column. So we counted it up at the weekend and we were nearing 600 kilometres. So we're not too far from Calais now. I have to be honest, interest has waned a little bit this week as it's really getting dark and cold when they come home from school now. So they come home and they like play outside for about 15 minutes and then they're like, it's too cold. It's too cold now. But we're planning on doing a bit of a hike tomorrow. So we'll get some family Ks done then. And I have if you're watching this on YouTube, you may see a slight rosy sheen on my cheeks. I've just finished another hour on Zwift. It's killing me, John. It's killing me. I have had to go every other day because I have no self-control and I get on it and I have to try. It's quite good because it controls your power, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to walk after the hour. It actually slows me down a bit. But I'm loving, as I said last week, I'm just loving doing something different and pushing myself really, really hard for those short little intervals, and it not being about running and the kids come round the computer as I'm like absolutely bleeding from my eyeballs and they're all going, come on mum, I'm like, you're taking all the oxygen away from me. But I think it's really cool that they're watching me doing this and they're seeing me go, you're right mum. But I'm really enjoying doing something different and not running laps around here. That we have everything crossed that they might let us out a little bit early out of our 1K restrictions. So
well, I think we need to, because I'm a little bit concerned. This podcast is Run to the Hills, and the run is the key word there. And I'm a little bit concerned that this is going to become a cycling podcast and all about your Zwift cycling. So.
Well, it's all cross training, John. It's very good.
It
it's so good for the knees. My knees are enjoying a little bit of downtime from all the downhill.
Okay. Well done on your challenge. And I thought I just wanted to give a little heads up for a couple of things that will be on our YouTube channel. For those that only listen to the podcast, you may not be aware that we do have a YouTube channel as well. And this episode goes out each week as a YouTube video as well. But we also have a couple of things coming up this week that are just on our YouTube channel. And the first one is my countdown to the spine with Stephen Brown. And this weekend will be our third episode. And we're basically counting down with Stephen. So it's 8 weeks to go this weekend. And this week, Stephen's going to be talking about his checkpoint strategy. So each week we have a little chat about his training and how that's going. And also we talk about one aspect of the race. And this week it's going to be all about checkpoint strategy, which I think will really help people doing the race, because as we know, in any race, people faff around, don't they, in checkpoints. And Stephen is very efficient and he's got lots of really good tips. So that will be well worth listening to if you enjoy the spine or you're going to be taking part. And it does look as though, Eddie, there's a good chance it's going ahead. There's been emails out this week to competitors. There's been some more places being opened up for the Challenger race, I think. So far, it's looking quite hopeful.
I might need to get my entry in.
Would you fancy it?
Oh, I would do anything now, John. I would do anything now to do a race, but I can't do the 2-week quarantine because that would basically be like a 3-week sabbatical from the kids. Oh, I totally could, but Bryn might never forgive me if I did that. Yeah. I can't wait to watch those. I love it. Brilliant. Well done.
And then the second one we've got is we've been doing a monthly live interview. So this month it's with Ian Beattie, MBE. Now, Ian is probably one of the first people I met in the ultra world when I first got in touch with the West Highland Way race. And we've become really good friends over the last number of years. And I'm interviewing Ian on Thursday at 7:00, and that will be live on our YouTube channel. Again, I'll put details on the Facebook page that you can take part. But one of the reasons I was keen to get Ian on was, one, to congratulate him on his MBE for services to athletics. He's been the chair of Scottish Athletics for the last 8 years, and it's great to see Ian recognised. But one of the things I've really appreciated about Ian, he's just very thoughtful in lots of different areas. So I'm really hoping that we'll get some questions, not just on running, on athletics, on Scottish athletics in particular, but also maybe his thoughts on Brexit, on COVID, on politics. He's just he's just someone I find very thoughtful in the way that he puts things across. So
he's very wise. He's very wise, yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of like a question hour. Prime Minister's question hour.
Yeah. Maybe. So if you've got questions for Ian, again, I'll put a link on our Facebook page and you can either leave questions there or hopefully you can join us live on Thursday and you can ask your questions as we go along through the hour and leave comments as well. So there are two things that are coming up this week, the Countdown to Spine with Stephen Brown and my live interview with Ian on Thursday. Okay, let's move on to our competition.
I feel a bit bad for the competition this week, John, because basically I went through and chose the one that I wanted to do. I was like, so thank you everybody for all your entries, but I chose the one I thought, oh, that sounds kind of tasty. I like the sound of that. So our winner of the starter pack this week is Andrew Etinap. Andrew, we have been discussing about 10 minutes before this podcast how to say your surname. And John gave it to me to say, if I said it wrong, just message me and I'll say it right next week. But I hope I said it with, as I said to John, like when I speak French, if you say it with confidence, people will believe what you're saying. So Andrew Etinap, you won the session of the week. John and I are going to do it. When are we going to do this, John?
Well, I'm going to do it next Wednesday. Yeah, that'll be my Wednesday lunchtime session next week. Yep.
Can I do it on my bike?
No, you can't run it.
So the session is, I think we should get a lot of people to do this. A warm up. Then 2 mile tempo, 5 times 800 meters at 10K pace. And then 2 mile tempo. I haven't written there what the recovery was between the 800 meters or the 2 mile tempo. We got what the recovery is. What should we give ourselves? 10 minutes.
He didn't say actually. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I think 2 mile tempo, then something like 3-minute jog. I'll write it out to you, John.
Okay,
5 times 800 meters. I reckon 2 minutes between those. It's only 10K pace. Be fine. And then the last 800 meters, I think we should then just go straight into the 2 mile tempo. Let's just get it done, man. Get it done.
Okay.
Done.
I think this is going to take me longer than 1 hour, though.
Yeah, it could be. It depends how long your warm up and your cool down are. But we'll discuss the finer details of the session. But if you want to have a go at that, something like a faster 10, if you do it by minutes, I think, as well as it, because 2 miles around here, for me to run 2 miles around here, sometimes that takes me an hour. But you could do 10 minutes tempo or 12 minutes tempo into 5 times 3 minutes with 2 minutes easy in between, and then back into 10 minutes tempo. That's probably a little bit easier for people to do as well, if you want to make it a little bit shorter as well. But that tempo, interval tempo, that is a peachy session, that one, John. Are you gonna FaceTime it live as you're doing it?
No, I don't think people would watch that somehow. Me breathing away heavily. Okay, so well done to Andrew, and we've got a starter pack of Chia Charge flapjacks on its way to you. And again, thank you so much for Chia Charge for providing the prizes for these and for sponsoring this podcast. Okay, we're going to move on now to our top tips. So this week, we thought this whole episode is going to be about virtual challenges. And I've written a blog post about virtual challenges. And I asked on our Facebook page for people to share their reasons for doing it and their motivation for doing virtual challenges this year. Obviously, as we know, most of our races have been cancelled. So we've been looking for different challenges. And I think that's been one of the good things that's come out of COVID, really, isn't it? The fact that these virtual challenges have happened, and it has given people a real interest in doing it. And it was quite a few people said that they never ever thought of doing a virtual challenge. In fact, we've got an interview with Marc Laithwaite coming up in a few minutes on this podcast. And Marc said that he just thought it was an excuse to sell medals initially. But he's got caught up with it as well. And I think the majority of people who wrote that had similar things. You know, maybe when they first thought of it, they thought, oh, what's the point? I don't need that. You know, I can run on my own. I don't need to have a virtual challenge. But once people got into it, then they've really enjoyed it. But there was 3 things, Eddie, that really came out from most of the comments. One was the sense of community. And I think people have just really enjoyed being part of something bigger than themselves. So particularly in lockdown and when you can't meet up with others, just knowing that you were part of a community all doing it. You know, the one community had 4,000 people running, didn't they? James, you interviewed him. We'll play that in a minute. And then I think the Lakeland one, they had about over 2,000. The West Highland Way one that I was involved in, we had, you know, over 1,000 people. So there was big communities of doing that. And I think that's what people really loved, just feeling as though they were part of a community. The second thing that came out from most comments was that sense of challenge, motivation. And for some people, some of us, we needed something to work on. I know the thing that really helped me was I've never done a 100-mile week before in training. I've done it in races, but I've never actually just done a 100 miles. So when I did the Lakeland 100, it was 105 miles. And I had to run 105 miles in a week as well as working. And I found that really interesting exercise to do. And I think a lot of people found that motivation, that focus for that week, maybe doing something a little bit different that they'd not done. And quite a few people said they liked having something that's going to stretch them, because if your challenge was to run, say, 40 miles in a week, a lot of people do that every week. It's no big deal. So to find something that was going to stretch them, I think that's what they really enjoyed, having that challenge. And then the third thing that came out was the charity aspect. And a lot of races that we're involved in provide money for charities, whether people are sponsored or whether the organizers put a percentage of the money towards charity. And I think both the ones that we feature in this episode, the Lakeland and the One Community, both gave a significant amount of money of the entry to charity. And I think people really enjoyed that, especially in these days where, you know, we recognize that charities are struggling because there's not so much things going on for them as well. So there was those 3 things: that community, that challenge, and the charity. And I think you've probably shared those as well, didn't you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, to be honest, when the year started, if someone said the only races you're going to do are going to be virtually sharing on Facebook and Instagram, I'd be like, no way, whatever, never going to do that. But I've absolutely embraced them and I've loved them. And it is exactly what you said. It's because we need something in our lives. As runners, we need a focus, don't we? And we need a challenge, and we need to think that we're constantly improving and we're constantly stretching our boundaries. And every single one I've done, the Centurion 100-mile week, which I didn't find the running that hard, running the 100 miles a week, because, you know, I said before, I'd normally run about 80 miles a week, but that little bit of extra and then dealing with the kids, I was like, this is insane. I was insanely tired. Wouldn't want to do that every week. And I did the vert week as well. So I climbed 40,000 feet in a week, and it was a really hot week, and it really broke me. And I was like, why am I so driven to do this? And it's exactly what you said. It was that sense of community. It was that need to push myself and to challenge myself. And then alongside that, the fact that the entry fee, some of it was going to charity, and we're just thinking about things that were bigger than COVID, and it was just taking the mind out of that, wasn't it? And we both run, and we both do these ultras, and we probably pick our races as well to see our mates and to hang out with our mates and, you know, mess around and have good chats and stuff. And that's what's been missing. And in some ways we've been able to recreate that in the virtual world. So kudos to race directors. James talks a little bit about how unexpected he was when they got almost 4,000 people to sign up, because the platform they created on the this computer thing, you do all that stuff, John, it wasn't ready to take that many people. So they had to sort of press buttons, I guess. I don't know what they did, but the uptake has been great. And I think it's saved a lot of people's well-being, and it's brought a load of new ultra runners into the community who perhaps were a little bit frightened of doing a race and seeing what they can do and see what their partners do and bring families together. So all in all, I apologize for my thoughts about virtual racing starting. It's totally changed my mind to it, and I'll be doing some more. I'm definitely going to Lapland to visit Santa this December.
Yeah, I think the other thing that was really good was that I know with the West Highland Way we had a presentation online live at the end of it. I know Mark with the Lakeland, I was involved in helping him with that. And each night they had Foxcast, and they had loads of people on and interviewed people. And I know James did he do a daily podcast?
Yeah, he did a ridiculous podcast, but I loved it.
Yeah. So
you listened to it because just bringing everyone together,
that side
isn't it?
of it really helped as well, just to keep things together. And obviously this episode is going to go on to talk a little bit more about the two that are coming up. But before we come on to that one, I've got an interview with a guy called Toby Cannon. And Toby sent me an email just last week saying that he's developed this app called Myleschallenges. And it's an app that it links with Strava and it's brilliant. And you can have different challenges. So again, it's a virtual idea. So we'll play this interview now. It lasts about 6 minutes, and it'll give you a little bit of an insight into something else that you can use to help with your motivation and your challenges. I came across an app recently that's been done by Toby, and he very kindly agreed to come on. So thank you very much, Toby, for sharing with us. And maybe first of all, you could just introduce yourself, please.
Sure can. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, John. It's really, really cool to be here. So yeah, I'm Toby. I'm a software engineer, and I'm one of the founders of Myleschallenges. I graduated a few years back up at York University. I'm now living in the fantastic city of Derby. Okay,
so obviously you've introduced your Myleschallenges. So tell us a little bit about the motivation and maybe just how it works.
So I wish I could say that I've been a veteran runner for years and years and years. That's sadly not the case. Last summer I cycled from Land's End to John O'Groats with my dad. Absolutely fantastic. Like, we loved it. It was a brilliant sort of week or two. And came into this year, I was like, right, I want to start properly running this year. So started over Christmas. I thought, let's try and book in for a marathon. Let's go kind of relatively big to start with and see. So I spent a lot of winter training, as with my dad and my brother. March comes around, races start happening, and then suddenly they're all postponed, right? So we were kind of thinking, how can we, and at the time a lot of them were postponed rather than cancelled. So they were October time, November time. And we were thinking, how can we keep this sort of motivation, this stamina to sort of keep running, even though that goalpost has been moved. So I kind of quickly spent a day whipping up a really, really basic app that we could all use as a family, really, to track our distance as if we were running from Land's to John O'Groats, to kind of reflect back on the challenge we did last year. So yeah, it was a really small thing, and I kind of realised after a while it was working. It has that kind of collaborations that you're all trying to get there, but also that competitive level. You can sort of see how far each other's gone, and it really did work from a motivation point. And some of my friends wanted it and that sort of stuff. So we gradually built it out into something that when you can make an account and you can kind of self-service it yourself, and it could really be scaled out. So yeah, we launched it in about late July time on Android, and then iOS launched about mid-August, and it's been growing since then. It's been really awesome.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, Toby, you sent me an email with a link to it, and I thought, well, I'll have a go at this, and I downloaded it, and it's so easy to use, to set up, and then there's challenges. So I decided to go for your challenge, which was to run across the country, which is a race I've done before, and I've had 2 runs since, on Saturday and Monday. It links with Strava, and it's just seamless, and it's great because you can see where you are on the map, and it tells you how many percentage you've done. So at the moment, you've got, I think, 10 challenges. Is that right?
Exactly that. Yeah, there's currently 10 challenges available there, maybe 11 now. So we're looking at how we can sort of add seasonal events and sort of temporary events and that sort of stuff. So yeah, they're constantly changing, but there's currently 10 or 11 on there.
Yeah, and it works. I've got an iPhone, and it works on Android as well, doesn't it?
Correct. Yeah. So we support both Android and iOS. You can have groups in the app and that sort of stuff where you can all connect together. We've developed it in a way that so Android users and iOS users, iPhone users, you can all be in the same group. You can all have chats together, that sort of stuff. And
it links with Strava. Is it linked with anything else? People use Garmin and other things?
Yeah, so that's something we're really working on at the minute. And the minute we've just linked with Strava, did a bit of research and found that'll be the sort of most effective to start with. You can also manually record miles in the app or sort of any sort of distances. So if you don't use Strava, you can still sort of take part in that. But we're currently looking at what other apps we can integrate with. The plan is to sort of gradually build that out. So whatever apps people currently sync in with, that can automatically be updated. We do understand the frustration of having to update it in lots of different places. So that's something we're working on at the minute.
Yeah. I must admit, I think that was the thing that really sold it to me, because I like to record my things on paper and also on my, various things. And it was just another thing to do. You'd probably forget after a while. But I think the fact that as soon as I have it on my Sunto watch, it gets uploaded to my app, and then it goes automatically to Strava and automatically to yours. So you don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how we got started. We started on a fridge with a bit of paper and that sort of stuff. One of the key things we've been trying to do from the start, the app's completely free at the minute, is there's a few of us working on it, but there's a lot more people with a lot more and better ideas than us. So constantly trying to gather all that feedback and sort of keep iterating. We make sort of a new release every week or so. We're sort of trying to bring out new features and that sort of stuff, and really trying to make it a valuable app.
Yeah. So just on that side, are you hoping to make some money from it in the end? Is that part of the aim?
That would be maybe the end goal. And the current goal is user growth. How can we keep iterating and make it something really valuable for us? That's more valuable than the money at the minute. If we can keep getting lots of people using it and providing some really cool feedback, saying, hey, I like this feature. Hey, it would be cool if we could also add this. We can then make something that's really, really accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously those that are listening to this and watching this, it goes out on our YouTube channel. Just explain how people can find it.
Awesome. Yeah. So a few main ways. The main one's our website. So that's myleschallenges.com. And that's Myles with a Y. So MYLES, myleschallenges.com. And we're also super active on social media. So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Again, Myles Challenges. And you can also find us on the Google Play Store and the iPhone App Store as well. Myles Challenges again there. Look out for the white and orange logo. That's us.
Yeah, and obviously I'll put links on our show notes so people can find it, and I'll put it on we have a Facebook page, and I'll put some links on there as well. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's great just to find out a bit more about it, and I say I'm enjoying using it, and I'll certainly recommend that others have a go as well. So thank you so much, Toby.
Thank you for having me, John. Best of luck with your challenge. Thank you.
I'm definitely going to try that app. Do you think I can get it to link with Swift?
Well, it is for cycling as well, actually. There is the options. Yeah, so maybe it does. Yeah.
I had a quick chat with James Elson, the director of Centurion Running, about the virtual races. And he talks about how they changed their format from racing on the trails to racing virtually, and the community that has built, and his amazement at the community that has grown in that virtual scene. So here we go, quick chat with James Elson. I am so privileged and fortunate to welcome my best friend to Run to the Hills, James Elson. Would you say we were best friends, James?
Bezies.
Yeah. James, we've known each other for childhood friends. 8 years?
Definitely not.
8 years?
8 years, yeah.
8 years. Yeah. Everybody knows James. He runs the founder of ultra running in the UK. And he started...
This is the most bizarre intro I've ever experienced.
He was let's be serious. You were a founding father of ultra running into the UK, because you were one of the first people that thought this could be a sport, and then realized that there wasn't the sport in the UK, and you brought the Americans loved it, and you brought that sort of style of racing to the England soils, and it's gone from strength to strength. And now James runs very successful Centurion Running, which hosts ultra races in the southeast of England. And you've had, would you say, perhaps your best year ever this year, James?
In many ways, yeah. I would say that our community has been the best ever. We grew the community by thousands of people over the first lockdown, and the support for one another in that community has been next level. I mean, I genuinely think some people, a lot of people have leaned really heavily on it this year. From a racing perspective, cancelling 5 out of 10 events, obviously not the best. We've never had to cancel anything before. It's definitely been challenging. But you're speaking to me 9 days after the second national lockdown here in England, and we've sifted through the detritus of the post-cancellation situation, and are therefore experiencing a little less of a frantic period than we have for a very long time. So I'm significantly more buoyant today than if you'd tried to interview me at this point last week, I would say.
I really, really felt for you, because I was joking when I said you've had your best year, but you've really, I mean, you've been a shining example of a race director when you've had to play every card that Boris has dealt to you, and you've done it with such dignity and grace. And as you said, who would have known that at the beginning of the year, if someone had said to you, you are going to create this incredible community online, and the virtual races you're going to run are going to be so popular that there's going to be thousands of people doing them. How many did so could you just firstly explain the virtual races that you've done, and tell us sort of like a rough figure of how many people did them?
Yeah, we did. The first one was back at the final week of May, called One Community. That was... and is the one that we're repeating at the end of this month to celebrate the second national lockdown here in England. Is an event where you run from 5K all the way up to 100 miles over the course of 7 days, as you see fit. You can break the sessions up, you can run them in one go, you can run them super fast, you can just take on the challenge of completing the distances. So we had 4,000 people in that first One Community event. What happened essentially?
4,000?
3,980 actually. But our runners, basically what happened was our core group of runners were motivated to do something that was unusual, but something we'd obviously come up with a sort of a mechanic that excited people enough to get involved. And then they dragged in kicking and screaming, kids, siblings, spouses, grandparents. So we had ages from 1 to 91, and actually we've got the same already for the end of November in terms of the age spread. So what it was there was sort of expansion into the wider running community for sure, but that was pretty limited. It was mainly just so we have about 2,500 to 3,000 runners every year, and it was those runners, and then their families, and their families only ever really get to be involved standing out, on the trail somewhere, handing a drink to them, or just supporting from home. So for the first time, they could get involved in a Centurion event, and that was amazing. And a lot of them appreciated that. The next one we did was the One Up challenge. I'm calling them challenges. They're not really events or races. They're more like challenges. And that was an elevation-based setup where you had a week to try and achieve one of 8 different levels of elevation gain. So we were asking people to climb the equivalent of anything from Box Hill up to Olympus Mons, 70,000 feet in a week. And then this one community that we've brought back is a replica of the May event. However, we've chucked in the rerun random event on top of that. So 200 lucky people got sent random T-shirts to go and run whatever interpretation of the race on the T-shirt that they got drawn at random was. So, I mean,
and that sold out really quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, like 72 hours. I think Dan and Charlotte at Rerun were pretty surprised. And I had to check many times that they wanted me to cap it, because I think it would have gone... We've got about 1,000 people signed up so far for one community. And I think half of them would have done a Rerun random on top if they could have. So that was a great success. And that money's all going towards their shoe bank, which is a new setup for them. So that's brilliant.
So that's something else I wanted to talk about, was I think people have realised through the virtual scene that their carbon footprint for races, they can actually get almost the same buzz. I'm not, it's just different, isn't it? But you can still do some massive challenges from home without any carbon footprint at all, without needing the need for medals, without needing the need for T-shirt, without needing a whole lot of new kit. And I think that's really been brought to the forefront of people's awareness that we don't need all this and we can still do great things from our doorstep. Well, it certainly has for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, but for me personally, I'm itching to put on a bib and go and race somewhere else. I think running more locally has definitely featured, obviously, extremely heavy this year, and I totally agree. I think it's going to be more prevalent going forward. I think a lot of people have realised how many good races there are on their doorstep. The virtual side of things, I was very dismissive of. Until the end of last year, I was all about in-person events, and virtual really was not something I could ever have seen us doing. But the situation dictated that it was the only thing we could do, and now people have tried it. I think a lot of them are on board with it. If we hadn't had this lockdown, we were planning on doing a one community event next year, irrespective, and I think we will look to retain it because it's a way for the wider community to get involved and do it from home, exactly like you said. I've really enjoyed them. I've enjoyed organising them, but I've enjoyed running them too, because you can turn it into whatever challenge you want. We had a group call with our group coaching the other day, group coaching group, and they weren't sure what to do. They were like, oh, should I go up from 50 to 100 miles? And you don't have to go that way. You can race something shorter, harder, and really push yourself in a different way. Our kids are getting involved again this time. It's just a way for everyone to be involved that they couldn't ever have imagined before.
I'm totally like you. The virtual scene before, I was like, no thanks. If I'm not putting on a bib and bleeding from my eyeballs, I've got no interest in doing this. Yeah. But I have been amazed, and I thank you for this. Like the 100-mile week, I was like, I killed myself. I was ruined by the end of it. But then the vert week, I mean, it was so much harder than I ever thought that I would ever push myself in a training week. And when I rang Bryn on the last day and said, I'm actually having to go backwards downhill now because my knees are so sore. And why am I doing this? But there was something about that community vibe online that just drove me on, and I can't put my finger on it, but it was incredible what you created, that community, and that need, and whether it's something to do with lockdown as well, that need to be involved with people that we're so missing this year. So it's been hugely successful.
I just think a lot of people staring into the void of lockdown with nothing really on the horizon, no excitement, nothing to break it up. Okay, we've got kids going to school, so we're doing the school run as normal, but then interactions outside of that are limited to pretty much nothing at all. And then to be part of something where there is such incredible positivity is, I mean, if it wasn't us doing it, I would have done someone else's virtual event for sure. And if this situation persists, then I'll definitely jump in on the Lakeland one, for example, in December, because it's just something to do and a way to stay focused in training when racing is just not viable right now. So I'm really pleased that so many people found it of value. We didn't know when we launched that first One Community event if we'd have 50 people, or, I mean, my worst case projection was actually for 200 participants. I didn't think we'd get less than that. But when we ended up with 4,000 people, I mean, that created some problems of its own, mind you, just logistically and admin wise. It was huge. It was way, way past anything we'd anticipated. We're a bit better set up for it now, but I don't know if virtual events will carry on quite as frequently in the future, but I can see events like the One Community one that we've held on to. I can see it happening on a semi-regular basis, perhaps annually, perhaps sort of every couple of years, but definitely something we will retain further down the line, because it definitely has value to everyone on a number of different levels. So it's been an amazing addition to, the running scene, the ultra running scene, as it were, for sure.
We can only thank you, James. Thank you for everything that you've done, for being a leading example to race directors, for getting your short block of getting races up going. And we wish you all the best for 2021. And I hope to be putting on that South Downs Way 100 take 3 next year.
1,000 thank yous.
1,000
we look forward to that too.
Speak to you soon. So if you're looking for a virtual challenge to sign up to in the next few weeks, 10 days away, 23rd to the 29th of November is the next Centurion 100 challenge, and I'm also doing the rerun part of that. So I got picked a t-shirt, and I have to interpret my t-shirt during that week. Unfortunately, I got the 5:30 a.m. club t-shirt, and I've looked it up, and it's all around big cities. You can join this 5:30 a.m. club and run 5K. But I'm not allowed out of my house until 6 a.m. because we're on a curfew. So I'm either going to have to not have my head torch out. It's a joke, gendarmerie. It's a joke. I would not break the rules. So I thought I might have to do the 5:30 p.m. challenge.
But there again, your 5:30 in the UK is 6:30 for you.
John, you are a legend.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
And I just changed my watch.
That's right.
So I did think, shall I go running every day at 5:30? Oh, I kind of was happy with the 5:30 p.m. The 5:30 a.m. I'm not sure about that. So if anyone's got any good ideas of how I can interpret that t-shirt so it doesn't mean 5:30 a.m., I'll be pleased to hear. So we'll put a link on the show notes if you're looking for a challenge in the next few weeks, 23rd to 29th of November.
And then the second interview we've got is the one I did with Marc Laithwaite. And the Lapland Challenge is from the 10th to the 22nd of December. Now, I do realise, Eddie, there's going to be some people who'll do both, aren't there?
I'm doing both.
Oh, are you
Toad's
doing both?
Do both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, John.
Yeah. Well, I've actually got.
No.
I've still got a race on.
Of course.
The Tour de Helvellyn. We had an email this week saying that Joe is 75% confident that he can still put it on. So I must admit, I'm still hoping that'll happen. But anyway, this interview was with Marc Laithwaite, and we chatted about the summer one and how it went and his plans for this one. And he also talked a little bit about the schools challenge, which I was really interested in for my day job as well with Active Schools. We've been involved in that. So this interview lasts just over 17 minutes, which must be the first that my interview was longer than yours. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this interview with Marc. And it's great to have Marc Laithwaite with us this evening. So thank you so much, Marc, for joining us. And just to start with, maybe, I would imagine a lot of people listening, watching this, know who you are. But for the few that don't, maybe you could just introduce yourself, please.
Well, I'm Marc Laithwaite. And probably, I suppose, if with most of your followers being involved in ultra running, I'm probably best known for being involved with the Montaigne Lakeland 50 and Lakeland 100. Set that up many years ago. 14 years ago is it now? 15? I'm getting confused with lockdown. So yeah, to organise Montaigne Lakeland 50 and Lakeland 100. And we have other trail races as well around the northwest, which we organise with Montaigne and through another company called Epic Events.
Yeah. And personally, Mark, you're more of a triathlete, aren't you? More of an Ironman.
I am at the moment. Yeah. I mean, I think I used to do ultra stuff and adventure racing and all those kind of things. And, I suppose in the last 31, 32 years I've been racing now, I would switch from things, to maybe fell running for a couple of years, and then I'd go to bike racing, and then it would be adventure racing and ultra running. But and at the moment, I'm kind of settled on I'm racing Ironman at the moment. That's my thing. So we'll see. Maybe in a few years' time, I might switch back to something else again.
Yeah. Well, as far as the Lakeland 50 and 100 goes, I'd just like to, obviously we could speak for hours about this, and we have done different interviews that I've done with you. But I just thought, have you got maybe a couple of highlights that you could just share with us of being involved in setting up the Lakeland 50 and Lakeland 100?
Yeah, well, I think so many stories I could tell really, but I think the highlights for me is just, seeing what it's become from where it started to what it is now. When we set it up, it was only a very, very small thing. Like 60, 70 people took part in that first year. And we never at that stage thought we'd have a couple of thousand people taking part. I think if we did, we probably would have put the checkpoints in different locations, because logistically it's now a bit of a nightmare with 2,000 people. But so that, I think that's the biggest highlight for me, is just seeing what it's become really. And then, because it's we do a lot of charity stuff through it, just the community it's developed as well, the community that do the event, and the support, and just a lot of goodwill, and we've done a lot of charity work, and I think those have really been the biggest highlights for me. Just the way it's developed into what it is just it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I think as someone, I've done a couple of times, and I think that it's not just the competitors, is it, Mark? It's the people that you have helping on the checkpoints, and they've just almost become a life of their own, haven't they?
Yeah, and I said that I think when we develop that community, that's part of it. Is that when we used to have the entries initially opening on September the 1st every year, the entries open, and we do a ballot scheme now, which is where you have, you can go on at any time during the day on September the 1st and put your name in the hat, and then we draw so many people out. And but before that, it was it opened at 9 a.m. and you just went on and entered, and there was just such a rush, it was kind of crashing the system. We always joke about it, because when we then opened the link for people to volunteer, we had the same problem there, that we literally had to close it within 6 hours because we had more people volunteering than we needed. And I think that's just nice. It's developed this thing where people will come and take part, and then they'll go to the checkpoints and they'll see how well they're looked after in the atmosphere, in the fancy dress or whatever it may be. And because of that, people think, oh, I'm going to do that one. I'm going to help out and I'm going to give back. So you're never, ever short of volunteers. We have too many volunteers for the event, which is, a rarity for an endurance event, to have too many people volunteering to help.
Yeah. And I think that showed itself again in the summer, didn't it? Because obviously this year's race, like all the other races, was cancelled. So you organised a virtual race. So tell us a little bit about how that went.
Yeah, the virtual races. I mean, it's an odd thing, because I've never really got virtual races and what they're about. I suppose I was a little bit cynical in the past when I was looking at it thinking, "You're just selling medals here, aren't you?" That's that's what virtual races are. But then when the event was cancelled, and I think this year more than ever, I think virtual races have been important as well, because there's a lot of people who, sport, like running and sports are a big part of their life, and taking part of these events are a big part of their life. And, it gets thrown around a lot, talking about mental health and exercise and stuff like that. But it is very, very true that, a lot of people I know, triathlon or ultra running or whatever it may be, cycling, it's such a big, big part of their life and a big part of the routine that it does impact them a lot when they can't take part in things. So I think this year, specifically virtual events, have been great, because it's given people some kind of focus. and a community focus. And of course, with social media, you can have this online community as well. So it's a community focus and bringing people together and, you know, raising some money for charity and stuff like that. So, yeah, so when we organised it, I've never really kind of bought into the idea of the virtual events. And then when we ran it and it got rolling, and I kind of thought, yeah, I can see now how this works. And I could see how it could work. I think this year was special because of COVID. I think virtual events were always going to be more popular than any other year, but I can see how going forwards you could organise these kind of events. And I think the key for me is, I think, he's doing something a bit different and having that community and involving people, whatever it may be. And, you know, obviously we were doing the Foxcasts in the evening that you were involved with. And, you know, I think doing something like that to bring people together and have a focus point is needed. But yeah, I was surprised how well it went, and I get it now, how virtual events can operate.
And I think, having been involved in that, I think those evenings were great, weren't they? And the people that were watching and just feeling part of it. So people had done their run and then they could join in the evening, and we had a lot of you know, a lot of participation in that. So that worked really well.
And so those virtual events, a lot of the virtual events I saw before, it was more like a challenge where you will pay X amount of pounds and you have as long as you like to run 100 miles. So you just go off on your own and you run 100 miles. And when you've logged that 100 miles, you email the person and go, there you go, I've run 100 miles, and they'll send you a medal. But we didn't want it to be that. We wanted it to be a community thing. And I think that was the one thing that I wanted it to be different to the normal virtual events. Is I wanted to have a large crowd of people all running it. Whilst they were running apart, they were running together. So showing the photographs and the stories on the Facebook group. And I think that was for me, was the thing that really made it.
Yeah. And I think, Mark, having the map as well, the virtual map. So if you were doing the 100 mile, 105 miles, then you could see where you were on the virtual map. And that was fun as well, wasn't it? Because each day you'd upload how many miles you'd done. And then you say, oh, I've made it to Buttermere now, and I've made it to Dalmay. And then you can see yourself working your way around the course.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The other thing, we had the virtual map, and you were a little icon moving around the map. And every time you uploaded, I've ran 6 miles, you'd move 6 miles on the map. And of course, because these virtual events for us certainly are new, like that software, I've never seen that before. And it was kind of built in the month before that event. So we didn't even know if it would work. And I think it was there was errors in it, which were solved at like 2:00 in the morning before, you know, on the first day. So we didn't even know. We kind of sat there thinking, this is going to go pear-shaped now. And luckily, there was a few things. It was Garmin. That was the week Garmin got hacked.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Garmin got hacked that week. Of all the things that happened to us. So, and there was problems with Strava uploading and stuff. But on the whole, I was gobsmacked how well it went, to be honest. Yeah. No, but it was really good. And so, yeah, we were seeing a lot of that software and the maps and stuff. We were saying that firsthand ourselves, you know. So it was thankfully it went well.
It did, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your Lapland virtual race then, and what was the motivation behind this one?
Motivation was, I mean, we wanted to kind of continue our fundraising. So the last one, all the money went to charity, and for this one, again, all the money goes to charity. So we wanted to continue to kind of support our charities and make sure that we had this income coming in for the charity side of it. So that was first of it. We had things we wanted to fund and money we wanted to donate, and we wanted to make sure we had the money in the bank account. So there was that. And then I also think that because the last one went so well, I thought, well, you know, we could definitely do this again because it worked really well. And so I think just the fact that it went so well made me want to do another one. And we wanted to kind of have it. We didn't want to just kind of organise a series of virtual events. It had to be kind of poignant, so it would be at Christmas, you know. That's why we just picked one. We're not going to do a series or anything. There was a one in July when the race should have taken place, and we'll do one at Christmas because it's a poignant time of year to do it. And then, of course, with things going into lockdown, and we've been in this tiered system and now into lockdown and stuff, and really events can't go ahead. Again, that in itself is just another reason for organising another virtual, that people, they haven't got any events to aim for, and it's just been a crap year, hasn't it? You know, and people are just not feeling it, and they're feeling a bit down and stuff. So I just thought, you know what, if we do something at Christmas and there's some good comes out of it and some charity, and we're doing the toy collection, which we did last year for disadvantaged kids in the Northwest. You know, kids who are just not getting anything at Christmas. and all of those just feel good. And I just think, I mean, I said this to you back in July. I was getting quite a lot of emails of people saying, thank you for organising it, and mentally I've not really been in a great place, and I've been really down, and some of the emails I was thinking, I'm not a counsellor, and but people were genuinely, whatever it is about the COVID, they're just not right, and they just feel unsettled and just feel anxious, and a lot of people just got a lot out of it, I think. So it's just I thought it'd be nice, just that positivity of doing something for charity and getting everybody together for 12 days, getting the whole crowd together, and just riding on that goodwill, and just to make people feel like they're doing something worthwhile and make them feel good about themselves.
Yeah. So this time, instead of running around a virtual Lakeland course, you've made it a bit different, haven't you?
We're trying to work out what we could do. So it's got to be festive themed. So I can't go around the Lakeland course again because we've done it now. That wouldn't work. So then I got on Google first. Typed in "where does Santa live?" That's a dubious point in itself because you get multiple options with that one. But where does Santa live? So, and then found where Santa lived, and I thought, right, okay, and then looked at Lapland. But what's the capital of Lapland? And looked at the distance between the capital of Lapland and the village where Santa lives, and it worked out at 145 miles. And I thought, yeah, we'll do that. And then 12 days of Christmas, so that seemed to tie in quite well. So 12 days for 145 miles. Or you can get on a bus and you get transported to a little village, and you start at you've got 8 to 9 miles in 12 days instead. So yeah, so that's the route, and you get to see yourself moving across Lapland. I'm still using the map again.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening, watching this, what's the best way for them to get involved?
The way to get involved is to if you go to the Lakeland100.com. So Lakeland 100, and 100 is numbers. So Lakeland100.com, and on the homepage you'll see a variety of articles, because we've got you can enter as a solo or you can enter as a team. And that's a new thing for this year as well, because we thought 145 miles in 12 days and even 89 miles in 12 days is a long way for a lot of people. So it's still 7 miles a day, or just over 7 miles a day for 12 days. And that's beyond quite a lot of people. So you can do it as a team. So you can get your friends or your family or your colleagues together. And so if 10 of you enter, or 5 of you enter, whatever it may be, you can upload. As you each upload, it accumulates the mileage. So if you've got 5 people in your team and you do 2 miles each that day, then your team has collectively done 10 miles. So you'll move 10 miles across Lapland. So that's a good way for getting people involved who can't do the full distance. But yeah, if you go to Lakeland100.com, you'll see the details on there for to enter as an individual or as a team. And there is also information there about schools, because we've got free schools entry as well.
Yeah, and that's been something I've got involved in as well with my day job as with Active Schools. And I think you've had a few schools from Glasgow, haven't you, that have have entered now?
Yeah, and we just thought it was something nice to do. And the whole point was just to reach as many people as possible. Yeah. And again, we've been doing some charity stuff in the schools. We have this triathlon package and other things, mountain kids that we go in and do in the schools. And it's not a lot of provision at the moment in the primary schools that we're going into. We've been really well received, and they're just saying that there's not a lot going on, and the kids are looking for stuff, positive stuff, physical well-being, mental well-being, all that kind of thing. So we decided we'd do the Lakeland Lapland, and we'd have it free for any schools. And it was primary schools initially, but I mean, primary schools or secondary schools makes no difference. They can still enter for free. Yeah. What you would do is the school would enter, and then they would collectively run it, and they can follow themselves across Lapland. So what I had in my head is, if it's at 145 miles from the capital of Lapland to where Santa lives, is that the kids would run so far on day one, and the teacher would upload it. And then in the assembly in the morning, she'd say, look how far you've moved towards Santa. And then on the next day, they'd run a bit more. They keep moving each day. They progress towards Santa until they reach Santa. And so you could, depending on the size of your school, you could enter the whole school as one go. So if you've got 70 kids, if they all ran just over 2 miles each, you'd get the 145 miles. Or if you've got hundreds of kids in your school, you could enter it as year 1 or year 2 or year 3. So you could have multiple entries rather than one single entry. And then we've got this Christmas story of the fox and the reindeer, which ties in. So the kids can get involved with the Christmas story, and there's activities around that. And it kind of adds some context to why they're running across Lapland to Santa's house. Yeah. Sounds bonkers, doesn't it? But It'll be all right. It'll work. It'll be all right.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And as you know, we did something similar with the Glasgow schools for the Great Scottish Run that was cancelled. And the classes just loved it. We had loads of great feedback from, and I think the virtual thing, that's what they loved, being able to see their little dots moving up the West Highland Way, or, you know, in your case, across Lapland. So I think they'll love it. And if anyone is listening to this who is involved in schools or is a teacher, then I would really, really encourage them to take part. The kids love it. You know, they just, every day they'll come in and ask the teacher when they're running today and how far they're going to run. And they really get into it. So I'm sure it'll be a great success.
Yeah, on the Lakeland 100 webpage, on the homepage, I think like the third or fourth article down there in the latest news, there is a link which says free entry for primary schools, and all the information is in there. But for the primary schools and the secondary schools, I keep saying primary schools, it's secondary schools as well. They do need to email us because we send them a special link so they can enter without paying. Yeah. But we've got 85 schools entered now.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I mean, I know some of the schools were bigger than others, but you've got to think 85 schools, you're probably reaching at least 10,000 kids, you know, as a bare minimum would have thought on 85 schools. So that's just, it's brilliant. And I'm hoping we can kind of get it up to a couple of hundred schools before the event starts.
Good, excellent. Well, I'll put all these links on our show notes, Mark, so people can link it as well if they're listening to this on a podcast or the YouTube, and we'll get it out there as well. And we'd love to get you back on, maybe once it's over, and to find out how it all went. But thank you so much for organising it. And I think, you know, as a runner, it is one of those things that I know the summer one, it was just great to be involved in. And even though I was running, you run on your own, you do feel that you were part of a group, and the fact that others were going to see where you were as well. So I think it really added to that spirit of being together.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
No problems at all. Thanks for having me on, John.
There's two races that you may want to get involved in. The One Community from the 23rd to the 29th of November, and the Lapland race from the 10th to the 22nd of December. All the details are on their websites, and they'll put links on our show notes so you can see what's happening.
I know we have quite a few PE teachers on our Facebook group who are trail runners as well. So get sharing that with schools, because I know PE teachers are pulling their hair out slightly with what to do with kids to keep them engaged, and I think that would be brilliant. And as he said, the headmaster like pulling up where they are, and I think that's just so brilliant. Yeah, I'm excited at getting to Santa.
Yeah, the one that we did instead of the Great Scottish Run that we do in Glasgow, it was great, and we had over 300 schools involved and classes involved, and it was great. And again, the feedback from the teachers, the kids just loved it. Seeing that we did a virtual West Highland Way, so each day they could see how far they'd made up the course. And the kids were just really motivated.
They're so easily pleased. They are so easily pleased and motivated. Yeah. See a little dot moving on a screen, pass them a little bit of chocolate. Done.
Brilliant. Okay, so that was the episode for this week. And next week, we've got an interview with Andy Blow. Now, he is involved in precision hydration. And Tim, our sponsor at Chia Charge, was quite keen for us to interview Andy, because he feels that their product and Chia Charge bars work well together. And I know that you've used a little bit. You've used their products, haven't you, Eddie?
Yeah, I use their hydration tablets quite a lot. I actually use them a lot pre and post race, especially when I'm traveling and I'm flying to a race. And they have different strengths of tablets according to what you're doing. And I recommend them to a lot of clients, especially to a lot of clients who struggle with their hydration needs. And they do tests as well to help you know how much sodium you should be taking on. So I'm really excited about chatting to him and finding out a bit more about the product and educating our listeners on how it might help them as well.
Yeah. Okay. So that will be next week's episode, and we'll give you an update on how our challenge goes, Andrew's session, of how we get on doing this.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. So I'm John Kynaston, and this was episode 14.
I'm Eddie Sutton, and let's run to the hills.